So the last graph we're going to look at to determine the type of function is this graph here. So go ahead and glue that into your book. Still part of GP number 1, so still kind of following the same instructions. First thing we're going to do is create a table of values. Now, I want to kind of talk about something that I touched on in the review notes, where I said to make sure that our x values are consecutive numbers. So what's going to happen with this graph here is that we're going to see that our x values kind of skip count. And so if you look at this line here, the points that we're able to pull from the graph are first here at -2, -4. And then we can't really tell this value here at -1. So the next point we can identify is here, the y-intercept, right? At 0, -3. And then right here at 2, -2. At here at 4, -1. At 6, 0. And 8, 1. So what I mean by consecutive numbers is that if you look at the graph, we are still listing every single point that we can identify from one end to the next. We're not leaving out one of those points. So we still have these consecutive points on the graph, even though we're skip counting, and that is perfectly acceptable. Now, once we have our data, we want to check our differences. So the difference between -4 and -3 is 1. Between -3 and -2 is 1. Between -2 and -1 is 1. -1 and 0 is 1, and 0 and 1 is 1. This is our first difference. Therefore, we have a linear function. So identify the type of function. This is a linear function. First, because the data shows a common first difference and, no comma, just and. If you take a look at the shape of the graph, this is a straight line, right? And so if you take the last two letters off of the word linear, you'll see that it says line. So anytime you have a linear function, its graph will be in the shape of a line. So, and the graph is a line. So those are two ways that we're able to tell that a function is in fact a linear function. Now, once again, we want to write the domain and range in both inequality and interval notation. For the domain, we look from left to right. So I'm going to mark my lines, the left side to the right side. So our domain is from -2 to +8 and everywhere in between. So -2 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 8. And in interval notation, it's brackets from -2 to 8. For the range, it's the very bottom of the graph, which is here at -4, to the very top of the graph, which is here at +1. And that's our y value. So -4 is less than or equal to y, which is less than or equal to +1. In inequality notation, there. And in interval notation, we have bracket, -4, 1, close bracket.